look at the world around you. Every headline, every conversation, every image and story you consume. How much of it is reality, and how much is carefully framed to make you believe it's real? You trust your eyes, your ears, your mind. You trust that what you perceive is truth. But here's the brutal truth. What you see, what you hear, what you think you know, is already filtered, distorted, and curated. Truth doesn't exist. Only perception exists. And perception is treacherous. It's shaped by fear, desire, bias, and habit. It is malleable, fragile, and terrifyingly personal. You believe that what you see is objective, that the world exists outside of you in a solid, knowable form. But everything is interpreted, processed, shaped by layers of experience, memory, and culture. The same event, witnessed by two people, becomes two entirely different realities. What you hold as fact is often fiction dressed in confidence. Ask yourself, how much of your life is built on perceived truths? Your choices, your relationships, your beliefs. How many are founded on reality, and how many are built on illusions that feel real simply because you accepted them? You make decisions daily, thinking they are rational, logical, grounded. Yet almost every choice is an echo of what your perception has convinced you is true. And perception is a liar. Even your memories betray you. You recall moments, interactions, and emotions, but memory is not a photograph. It is a reconstruction, a narrative rewritten every time you revisit it. You are not remembering what happened. You are remembering what your mind allowed you to remember. Each recollection is a fiction that feels authentic, a story you tell yourself to preserve coherence, to preserve comfort. And so your own life becomes a hall of mirrors, reflecting illusions you mistake for reality. Consider morality. You believe some things are right, some things are wrong, and that the line between them is clear. But morality is perception too. It is inherited, conditioned, argued over endlessly because no universal truth exists to anchor it. You cling to your moral compass as if it's absolute, but in truth, it is a map drawn by society, by culture, by circumstance, and you've been trained to follow it without question. Even your sense of self is rooted in perception. You think you are consistent, coherent, and whole. But how many of your traits, habits, and decisions are genuine? And how many are conditioned responses to others' expectations? You construct identity from fragments of belief, behavior, and inherited narratives. What you believe to be you is often the reflection of other people's projections, filtered through your mind until it feels authentic. Pause and ask yourself, if all the frameworks, all the conditioning, all the narratives you rely on were stripped away, what would remain? Not much is the unsettling answer. Perhaps a void. Perhaps chaos. Perhaps the raw, unclaimed core of consciousness that exists beyond judgment, beyond expectation, beyond perception itself. And yet, most of us never venture there. We hide behind our illusions, convinced that the world is solid, certain, knowable. We cling to perception as if it were truth because the alternative is unbearable. Consider conflict, wars, arguments, divisions. They are all born of perception. Two people see the same event, interpret it differently, and suddenly the world is split. Truth has no anchor. It does not intervene. It does not clarify. Only perception exists, shaped by fear, desire, prejudice, and ego. And the consequences of these perceptions are very real. Lives are destroyed. Love is lost. Trust is broken. And yet the underlying truth is irrelevant. All that matters is the story your mind believes. Even knowledge is suspect. You have been told facts, statistics, histories, scientific laws, but these are filtered, curated, simplified for consumption. The world is infinitely complex, but your perception cannot contain it. What you hold as knowledge is an interpretation, a model, a simplification. It is not reality itself. And yet, you cling to it, defend it, argue for it, as if possessing perception equates to possessing truth. Ask yourself now, how much of your life is lived in service to illusions you mistake for reality? How many decisions, regrets, and anxieties are rooted not in what is, but in what you perceive to be? And here is the cruelest truth. Perception is not stable. It shifts with mood, circumstance, memory, even your physical state. Today, you believe one thing. Tomorrow, it may collapse, replaced by another perception that feels just as real. You are trapped in a fluid, shifting reality, convinced of its solidity while it erodes beneath you. And yet, there is a freedom hidden in this recognition. If truth does not exist, then the structures that constrain you, beliefs, norms, judgments, are not absolute. They are interpretations, illusions, malleable constructs. If nothing is certain, then nothing can fully control you. You can choose to perceive differently, to act with awareness of the fluidity of reality, to see that every belief, every judgment, every identity is provisional, mutable, fragile. Most will reject this freedom because it terrifies them. The world without tone truth is chaotic. It is unpredictable. It is horrifying. But a few, just a few, will step into it. They will confront the instability of perception, the fragility of belief, and the illusions of self. They will descend into the void and see the raw, unclaimed space where nothing is fixed and everything is possible. And it is there, in that abyss, that the confrontation begins. The confrontation with everything you thought you knew. The confrontation with the stories that built your life. The confrontation with the mind itself, the liar that shapes, distorts, and deceives. Because you cannot escape perception, you cannot escape the filtering of reality through your own mind. And yet, to recognize this is to glimpse the threshold of something beyond. Clarity, authenticity, raw existence, unfiltered by the illusions that have kept you compliant, distracted, and deluded. The descent into perception's abyss is disorienting. Every certainty you held vanishes like smoke. Every principle, every conviction, every moral guideline begins to flicker, revealing its fragility. You realize that what you thought was the ground beneath your feet was never solid. It was an illusion, crafted by memory, culture, fear, and desire. And now, exposed, you teeter at the edge of understanding. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is true. And yet, this realization is more than unsettling. It is terrifying. You cannot rely on your senses. You cannot rely on your mind. The stories that once guided you, gave you comfort, gave you direction. They are all constructs, fragile frameworks designed to make chaos tolerable. Without them, the world is vast, infinite, and unknowable. You are alone in your perception, and that perception is untrustworthy. Ask yourself, what does it mean to live when you know that reality is a projection, filtered through the mind's biases and fears? How much of your anger, your joy, your sorrow, your love is truly yours? How much is a reflection of what you think the world demands you to feel, a response to expectations, a reaction to shadows? Perception does not merely distort truth, it invents it, constantly reshaping it in a way that ensures survival, coherence, but never reality. Even your relationships are built on illusions. You believe you understand others, that you share mutual truths, that connection is real. But every interaction is filtered, interpreted, edited, rehearsed, and remembered selectively. You never truly know anyone, not even yourself. You exist in parallel with the projections of others' perceptions, and they exist in parallel with yours. Together, you build castles of illusion, fragile and temporary, convinced of their solidity until reality, or its absence, collapses it. The tragedy is that most people will never see this. They cling to perception as if it were a lifeline, never daring to question its foundation. They seek comfort in certainty, safety in repetition, validation in agreement. They are trapped in the prison of their minds, mistaking interpretation for truth, illusion for reality, perception for life itself. But you, if you have endured this far, you are different. You are beginning to see the layers peel away. You are beginning to glimpse the raw, unfiltered chaos beneath, the void where truth does not exist, only perception. And in that void lies freedom. Freedom not from reality, it is unknowable, but freedom from the chains of belief that have enslaved you. Freedom from the illusions that dictated who you are, what you must feel, and what you are allowed to see. Freedom from the comforting lies that have kept you compliant, distracted, and deluded. And yet, freedom is brutal. It does not comfort. It does not assure. It does not provide answers. It is raw. It is terrifying. It is lonely. You must walk in the void with nothing to hold on to but your awareness, your observation, your consciousness. And that is enough. Because in the absence of truth, the only anchor you have is the perception you can control, the mind you can train, the consciousness you can refine. Ask yourself now, if truth does not exist, what is real? Not what you think, not what society tells you, not what memory or culture or fear constructs, but what you observe, what you feel, what you are willing to confront. Unfiltered, unedited, uncompromising. That is the raw essence of existence, the fleeting, malleable, perceptual reality that is yours to navigate. And here is the paradox. The collapse of truth does not destroy life. It intensifies it. Every moment becomes sharper, every sensation more vivid, every decision more profound. Without the comfort of certainty, without the illusion of absolutes, every breath, every glance, every touch carries weight, consequence, and clarity. Life is no longer mediated by stories you were told. It is raw, immediate, and yours. But beware, most will flee this reality. Most will cling to comforting lies, to distorted memories, to shared illusions, to false narratives that mask the emptiness beneath. They will avoid the confrontation at all costs, because the void is terrifying, and perception is all they know. You have already chosen a different path by facing it, and there is no turning back. The mind will scream, doubt will gnaw, fear will rise. You will question everything, including yourself. And that is exactly the point. To live authentically in a world without truth requires enduring this terror. It requires seeing the deception everywhere, and yet stepping forward anyway. It requires inhabiting the void, observing it, and making choices in defiance of illusion.
Because the alternative is slow death, a life performed according to borrowed scripts, distorted memories, inherited narratives. A life that feels real only because perception has convinced you of it. But when the curtain finally falls, when the final illusion dissolves, you will have nothing to show for it. You will have existed as a collection of borrowed perceptions, never having seen the abyss, never having faced reality, never having lived at all. So decide. Will you continue to obey perception unquestioned, to live inside illusions that masquerade as truth? Or will you step into the void, face the collapse, and confront the reality that exists beyond stories, beyond lies, beyond certainty? Will you endure the discomfort, the disorientation, the isolation, and emerge, however briefly, as a conscious being aware of the infinite, malleable, terrifying landscape of perception? This is your only chance, and it will not come again. Time will pass. Perceptions will shift. The mind will scramble to rebuild comforting stories. But right now, you have a choice: to look away or to see, to pretend or to confront, to live as a character or to live as consciousness itself. Because nothing else is real. Truth does not exist. Only perception, only your observation, only your awareness, only your courage to see beyond the illusions. This is Philospiral,